Hey everybody, this is Nick McCloskey with PMG. Thank you for joining the November webinar series. Today we'll be focusing on the Service Catalog Victory, how analog devices optimize global service fulfillment. Excited about this webinar. If you've been following some of the ones we've done in the past, our summer series and fall series, we've had some people from PMG speaking about different things that the Service Catalog can do. But for today's webinar, we're actually having one of our clients that have had a successful implementation with the catalog, and looking forward to hearing their story. Quick introduction. My name is Nick McCloskey. I'm the sales executive here at PMG. If you come across any questions or anything like that you'd like to follow up with about the Service Catalog tool, please feel free to email me or to give me a call. But more importantly, the two guests that we have today are Dwayne Guinard and Doug Vogel, both with Analog Devices, and they will be giving an overview of how ADI used the Service Catalog tool, the issues and challenges that they were trying to overcome, how they were able to find a solution for those issues, and then what their future plans are with the Service Catalog tool. A couple quick things. If questions come up during the webinar that you'd like to ask, go ahead and chat them into the window on the GoToMeeting webinar window that you have on the side of your screen, and we will get to those questions at the end of the event. This is scheduled for 1 hour, so depending on the amount of time we have left over to answer those questions, we'll get to as many of them as we can. If not, we'll follow up directly with people that submitted those questions. Also, for everybody who's joining the call, this will be, you'll get an email that's going to provide you a copy of the deck and a copy of the recording, and then you'll also be able to download off our website as well, too. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Service Catalog, what PMG offers is a software suite that the goal is having a one-stop shop for end users within any of your different departments to be able to go to one place and request the service. Now, this could be something that HR does. This could be onboarding processes. This could be IT processes, requesting meeting rooms. The idea, though, is that there's only one place that a user has to go to. It's all unified in one location. And then we have a back-end workflow processor that allows for integration into all your different systems. So if you already have some applications running on your enterprise, you don't have to go to each one of those individually to request different services to get completed. You just go to one place, the PMG software suite, submit that request, and then our workflow engine will take care of managing all the integration steps of updating applications, getting approvals, providing reports, all that housed in one single location. So that's kind of the quick, or the high-level view of what our tool can do. But we're going to dive into the specifics now as I'll hand it over to Dwayne of Analog Devices to tell the story of how they've used the Service Catalog at their company. So Dwayne, it's all yours.
I'm going to start out telling the story of the Analog Devices implementation of the PMG Catalog Suite here within IT to serve the employees of Analog Devices. And then following, my colleague Doug will tell the actual implementation story, and then I'll wrap up with the analog storytelling about our next steps. So I'd like to start out first telling a little bit about Analog Devices. Analog Devices is a global semiconductor company located in Norwood, Massachusetts. We have major manufacturing sites in the United States, Ireland, and in the Philippines. Now, the first thing I know comes to a lot of people's minds when they hear Analog Devices. Analog is old, isn't it? But in this case, I find that's a great question. But yes, most data processing is digital, but the real world is analog. Things like sound and motion as examples are analog. Analog Devices takes these real world signals and converts them from digital to analog and analog to digital to allow processing of this information. The company is about 48 years old, and this is unusual for a technology company to have been around this long. I think what analog does well is reinvents itself when it needs to, and I think what we've done with the Service Catalog is a great example of how the company has reinvented itself in serving employees to improve services and to reduce costs. Next, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Analog Devices Corporate IS. Corporate IS here consists of about 250 employees and contractors in a mostly centralized model with some IS personnel located at each of the major manufacturing sites. Historically, most of the focus has been on our enterprise applications, engineering needs, our external website, analog.com, and the infrastructure to support these. And like most IT organizations, we're very stretched. We work in a very fast-paced, project-centric environment. We've been very much focused on our internal customers in the enterprise application space, as I mentioned before. And I think overall the feedback we get there is we do a pretty good job. And we take a look next at the core technology platforms, you'll see that we're very much a SAP and Microsoft-centered shop, and we have a number of point solutions. We manage about 8,400 PCs with about 1,200 a year being refreshed. Our service desk takes in about 18,000 tickets. And once again, just want to emphasize, our feedback internally would be, in these spaces on the enterprise application infrastructure, I think people would say we do a pretty good job. Now, the business case for change, why do we need to do something different? There are two major driving forces. Like most companies, back in 2008, with the change in the financial climate, we had a dramatic reduction in our revenue, and we needed to take a look at costs. That was the first driving factor. The second was, as the CIO and his staff went out to engage the employees of Analog, the feedback they got was, well, you do a great job taking care of the big applications and infrastructure, but for the day-to-day needs, like getting a new PC, getting a mobile phone, getting software, you don't do as good a job there. And so that was really a wake-up call as we took a look at how we did business. So from there, we started two major initiatives. The first was called Shrink the Footprint. This is a high-priority effort to reduce ongoing expenses. Everything was open to review. We explored all ideas. Ultimately, we identified and executed on specific initiatives to reduce our ongoing expenses. Part of the strategy with Shrink the Footprint was to reduce costs and allow us to focus more of our time on growing the business opposed to running the business. This was our Shift the Balance initiative. When we started, 80% of our time was on running the business, leaving us only 20% of the time to spend on new initiatives to help the company grow. Today, we've achieved getting to 60% of our time is on running the business and 40% growing the business. The other game-changing initiative that the CIO did was create a new position to focus on the mass market and start an effort in that space, which is with the service catalog. So next I want to share a little bit about what it was like before the IT catalog. First, employees had a hard time knowing what IT services were offered. It was not a good central location to know these services, how to request them, or how to execute all the steps of the process. And what we often had available on our central site was out-of-date information. The forms are often in IS speak, not the terminology of the employee. And it often took multiple forms to execute one process, if you happen to know that. The employee had limited to no knowledge of the cost or expectation of when they would receive the service or product. There were multiple technologies used in that service, which meant there was limited consistency for employees. And once they placed the order, employees really had no visibility of the status of their requests. And just to top it off, I'd say most of this was tribal knowledge, how you got things done. Other than that, I'd say everything was fine. Clearly, we had a compelling case for change. It just had to be easier. So from there, we said, what is the experience that we're looking for? And it became clear to us that the bar had been raised by employees. All people really look for that consumer-type experience, whether at home or within the business. And Amazon, I think, is a model we quite often look to, where it's easy to find what you want, know the cost, when you'll receive it, know the status of your order, and do a few clicks and you're done. So this became the new vision for analog devices for our computers, software, peripherals, and mobile devices as examples, where it would be easy to order, know your status, etc. But not only did we want to make it easy for the employee, we also wanted to save costs. So automating these services was also a priority for us. So the vision was simple, intuitive, and done, both for employees, approvers, and for those involved in providing the service. At this time, I'll transition over to my colleague, Doug, who led the effort to implement our service catalog.
Thank you, Dwayne. To continue on the Amazon.com theme that Dwayne talked to, we set out to create a self-service environment for commonly requested services. This environment should have been self-service and easy to use for our internal employees. We did have some key technology features that we felt were requirements to deliver this initiative. We're in the midst of updating our IT ticketing system to Numara Footprints, which has since been acquired by BMC. We wanted to ensure that the service catalog solution integrated with Footprints. In addition, integration with Microsoft Active Directory and SCCM, as well as SAP, were considered a must. I'll go into each of these integrations a little bit later. For now, we want to ensure that we could leverage a variety of approval mechanisms. In most cases, this is using the supervisor relationship in Active Directory and custom approval tables that already existed in the ADI environment. Finally, we wanted to ensure that our employees were presented with delivery expectations through service level agreements and the ability to track order status. As you may have found, there are a lot of vendors in the service catalog space. You see a list here of the vendors that we considered for this initiative. We explored both premise and cloud-based solutions. Also of note, we have a large Microsoft SharePoint environment. We considered building a solution based on top of SharePoint. Some of the key reasons that we selected PMG were as follows. We determined that we wanted a premise-based solution as opposed to a cloud-based solution, and also one that was not custom-built. Primary driver for PMG was the strength of the integrations. PMG worked with Analog to prove the concept that involved testing these integrations with AD, SCCM, and our IT ticketing system at the time. The POC gave us a high level of confidence that the PMG solution married up nicely to our internal vision for a self-service portal. Once we had our vendor selected, it was time to get serious about the services to include in the service catalog. To support this, we defined requirements around what factors we would consider when adding services. We wanted to ensure that service owners were nominated to document and enhance the existing processes. The questionnaire was created that asked detailed questions about each service. The questionnaire is comprehensive. It does require a lot of effort by the service owner. However, this ensures that the catalog contains robust services that address the needs of the mass market. After completing this form, each service was reviewed by a governance committee that was comprised of senior IT staff members. Here I have a view of the process for adding the service to the service catalog. Again, services are reviewed to ensure that they qualify for inclusion in the catalog with some of the criteria that I previously mentioned. After determining that a service is qualified, we look to see if the service was ready for the catalog. This meant that service owners became more diligent in many cases about processes, SLAs, exception handling, and more. From here, the service catalog owner begins the design of the service, which eventually becomes a detailed configuration. After testing in a QA environment, eventually the service is deployed and communicated to our user environment. Here I have a list of the initial services that we deployed. This initial deployment was approximately 1 year ago. It was important to us that we deployed a solution with meat to it, not just trickle out services. At the same time, we wanted to ensure that we could offer many of these services on a worldwide basis. This also gave us an opportunity to address things like PC standards. So we were able to enforce standards to our largest sites. We removed much of the internal red tape for ordering standard machines. Employees that needed a machine outside of these standards would need to go through the old process, which has more approvals and significantly longer lead times. Similarly, accessories are offered, including keyboards, mice, monitors, memory, laptop bags, docking stations, power adapters, and more. We offered licensed software for Microsoft and Adobe, as well as internal business software. And on a limited basis, we offered mobile phones and tablets. And this highlights one of the features of PMG, the ability to audience services down to only those who need to see it. In this case, for instance, iPads are only available to a couple hundred employees throughout the company. We also centralized common requests such as system access, open IT-related trouble tickets, and checking basic information about an employee's PC. I'll show you a view of what it was like for employees to order software before the catalog was deployed. Employees would navigate through our internal websites to find the instructions to order software. In many cases, this required a phone call to our help desk or IT staff to determine the right place to order. Employees would sometimes be told to use our internal requisition system or go to Amazon.com and file an expense report. In the example I'll use here today, we assume the common option of using our internal requisition system. Entering orders on this system is tedious, as there are many fields that end users are not familiar with, but are required for an order to be successful. After completing the form, the order goes through the normal approval mechanism, and eventually a purchase order is created. The employee still needed to obtain the actual software after an order was placed. The process is not streamlined. Often they would end up calling our help desk again and waited for instructions on how to obtain this software, which usually meant navigating to the control panel on their PC and installing the software manually. It was not uncommon for this process to take more than a week and sometimes several weeks, depending on the approvers involved and the level of manual intervention involved. Now fast forwarding to today, this is a screen print of our actual service catalog in our production environment. Employees can go here and see a list of options available. In this case, I'll click on software and see the available Microsoft software titles. You could also browse, depending on business use case of software, for the software type. In this example, the user's ordering Microsoft Project. After choosing that title, employees are presented with a screen similar to familiar e-commerce sites. The actual cost, if any, of the software is displayed. This cost is also captured as part of the order in the back end, and the employee's cost and is charged as part of this order. We display a description and service level agreement to the user. They see this obviously before placing an order. And then once the employee is ready to order, they select what machine they want to install the software on and add it to the shopping cart. This new process provides a much better user experience while still following the necessary business processes. Approvals are still required, but after approval, software is automatically installed through our SCCM integration. Software requests are often fulfilled within minutes or hours today, as opposed to days or weeks in the past. I'll now go into the integrations in a little more detail. First and foremost, Microsoft Active Directory is the glue that allows for seamless integration between the service catalog and the ADI environment. AD is used to authenticate users, audience individual services, and for the lookup of key employee information. This information is leveraged both on the user-facing forms and the back-end workflows. We use Microsoft's SCCM product extensively throughout both the service catalog and in our normal production environment here. The primary use is to manage software deployments on employees' machines. Any software order that goes through the catalog leverages SCCM for software installation. In addition, SCCM is used to display PC-related information such as warranty, hard drive utilization, and installed software. Finally, an integration with Numara Footprints allows for the automatic creation and modification of service requests. Here's a view of the initial implementation team. A program manager was selected to drive the schedule, the budget, the resources, and more. A catalog administrator was responsible for configuring the actual services in the catalog. Depending on the size of the deployment, you should consider this to be a full-time role. As momentum picked up within our environment, the volume of service additions and modifications quickly consumed time, and something that we wanted to highlight, something that should be planned for. We leveraged PMG for consultant help as part of the implementation. Having the right person is key to a successful deployment. If possible, we'd recommend interviewing candidates prior to engagement. Good fit must have both technical skills but also the right mindset to work and blend into your organization. In our case, we work with Janesh Nayak from PMG. We had and we continue to have a great relationship with Janesh. We threw several technical and business challenges at Janesh and the PMG organization as a whole, and we're impressed with the responsiveness and many times out of the box thinking that they came back with. I've got some skill sets that we found to be key in terms of service catalog owner. Someone that's both process and detail oriented, and from a technical side, having a SQL background is a major plus. Service owners are responsible for knowing all the details on how the service should look to the end user, as well as how the back-end workflow should be considered. Of all these, we highlight that service owners may be the most critical. You really can build any scenario you want with PMG software and processes and vetted out scenario well before moving them into the catalog. None of that will matter. You really must have strong service owners that are engaged and committed to the project. Finally, we had an executive steering team to ensure that everyone within the organization is in agreement and driving to the same initiative and committed to the project. In terms of employee reception after the initial release, first how we did the deployment. We did a pilot within the IS organization and made some adjustments out of that. The biggest benefit came when we introduced the service catalog to what we call friendly business users, folks that see things certainly a different view than IS. We received great feedback that helped us to better mold the environment prior to a more wide-scale production deployment. As a whole, employees are very receptive to a better experience and look at IS as an enabler. Of course, there are some exceptions, such as scenarios that were not initially accounted for. And a couple examples of those are ordering lab machines or shared machines. We really built this catalog for one user ordering one machine for themselves. And then as it got more widely deployed, we've learned some other use cases that over time we've added into the functionality of the catalog. In terms of statistics for top-rated, top-used services, this is a view of the first 6 months of deployment. Some of the highly automated services yielded immediate benefit and time saved compared to the previous process. For example, managing the expiration of contractors' Active Directory accounts saved nearly 4 weeks of employees' time over the first 6 months. This process was completely manual in the old environment. The software ordering process I highlighted earlier conservatively saved more than 10 weeks of employee and help desk time. Some lessons that we learned from the implementation. Piloting is key. As I mentioned, we often find that the business community will provide better end-user feedback than the IT community, who may have been trained to live with the nuances of new systems. Focus on the high-value processes that deliver the most value both to the end user and to the IT organization. I highlighted earlier the relationship with PMG. That was obviously very important to our success. Finally, challenging the existing processes and not just automating what used to be done. There are always opportunities for improvements, and you should continue to challenge and push to continuously improve existing processes. What we may have done different: engage groups that are impacted by deployment earlier on in the process. An example of that is we made it easier for employees to purchase equipment, which turned into more orders for our purchasing group and obviously has some impact on their day-to-day job. We should have engaged or had a deeper level of engagement with them early on. In terms of error handling, it's difficult to account for every scenario, but building robust error handling to capture as much as possible. Finally, make sure that you have buy-in for the roles and the ownership throughout the organization. With that, I'll turn it back to Dwayne to talk about where we're going with the service catalog here at Analog Devices.
Thank you, Doug. So now, I'd like to talk to you about where we're going. Key, as we see the service catalog here at Analog Devices, which we've branded Get IT, we see the face of this as we see Get IT as the face of IT to the employee mass market. That's our whole strategy with the catalog. And key around all this is it's all about the employee, everything we think and do with the catalog. And as I said earlier, it needs to be easy to find a service, easy to initiate a service. In the terminology of the employee, not ISV, the employee needs to know the cost and when to expect that they'll receive the service. And throughout the service, if it's not immediate, that they have the status, that they know where it's at. For the approver, it's important that they see the relevant information that they need to make an approval decision, and it's easy to approve. And for service providers, that the system provides information needed to them and that they're able to effectively support the services that they own, including metrics and SLA data. And as I mentioned earlier, key to our effort is not only making the service easy for employees, but also saving costs via automated services. Some examples of places that we've automated are software requests, as Doug went over. Nobody is needed to intervene in that process. It's all automated. Another example is an email distribution request. Before, that used to be a form. It went to the service desk and went then to our mail group who had to set this up. Today, a person can go in, request a new distribution list, put in who they would like on the list, and it's all automatically created. So taking a look at our high-level roadmap, where we're going the remainder of this year and into next year, is we want to build out our internal staff and expertise on PMG. We've been making progress on that. It's not, I would say PMG is not difficult to learn, but anything takes a little time to learn, and especially around service management. I would say that's our bigger learning curve in how to effectively implement services. We're looking to expand, automate, and improve our existing services, build more metrics to help us in our monitoring and managing the services, and get out and market the service catalog. If people don't know about it, of course, they can't use it. So we want to get out, continuously market the catalog as we add new services, making sure that people are aware that they've been added. And going along with the marketing, shortly we expect to go beyond IES, that will evangelize and expand the services out of IES, which I'll talk to more in a moment. We also want to conduct regular focus groups with employees and approvers to get their feedback on their experience and ideas for new services, so we know what's working for them, what's not, and capture the new ideas so that we can incorporate that. We also want to meet regularly with our service owners and subject matter experts to both communicate new learnings, standards, and get their feedback on what's working for them, what's not working, capture their new ideas as well. One of the new services that we're looking to implement imminently is a service to allow employees that have locked themselves out of their AD account to be able to go in and automatically unlock the account. We've set up a service so that they can pre-register questions like on many commercial sites, and if they're locked out, they can go in and through this service unlock themselves. So it won't require a call to the IT service desk. We get thousands of those calls a year, so we'll have a significant time savings there, along with it's easier for the employee. They can just go do it now. Almost a thank you. Looking next steps, as I mentioned, we're looking to go outside of IS once we've gotten in the major initiatives. We're looking that this can be used in HR, facilities, and security as examples. We think that those are great opportunities, along with on and off board, and we think is a tremendous opportunity to both save costs and to make it easier for our employees and managers in executing those processes. Now I'll turn it back to you, Nick.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dwayne and Doug, for sharing your story with ADI and what you guys were able to accomplish there. I want to take a quick minute and kind of go back to some of the key things that you guys mentioned. Here at PMG, we have some ideas of what we believe are the best practices for implementing a service catalog. One of these being for standardizing. So having a way for end users to go in and request something that's described in their business terms, they're going to be able to easily find it. I believe, ADI, you guys gave a great example, or you gave a great analogy. You are the face of IT through the service catalog. So a lot of times, this is their only interaction with the IT department. So by having somewhere that's easy for them to go in and request services and get what they need right away really helps build the rapport between the IT department and other departments within the company. And also making it so it's easy to find the services and also restricting them. I think you gave the example of the iPad, of keeping, I think only 200 people could have that service and be able to request that service. So you set that up through the service catalog to restrict it only to those users. Next is the Operationalize. Is that Single-Pane-of-Glass idea. And you guys took that idea when you were looking at common commercial sites like Amazon.com, eBay. Those are the types of places, that's what users are expecting today, and you're able to provide that through the tool and what you guys are doing right now at ADI. Next is to optimize. And you don't want to replace the systems that you already have in place. You want to leverage them. If you already have processes and applications that are performing the actions that you need, but it's just difficult to interact with them, or you have to go to 3 different applications to get one process or one service completed, that's inefficient. So by providing a one single point of entry to go in and make a request, that's what you want. That's what your end users are going to want. And from what I heard, the story you've told, you're integrating with Numara, SCCM, Active Directory, and SAP. So really taking advantage of what all can be available through the integration of the tool. And then finally is to capitalize. And this is a goal that a lot of clients have as they get their service catalog in place. Okay, we're providing all these services, but maybe the IT department doesn't have a budget. So where's the cost going to? So how can we charge back these services that we're providing to different departments? And being able to, not only that, like if a new person comes online, they need to order a laptop, they need to go order an iPad, displaying those prices to that end user to know that what it's going to cost the company, which I know you guys are doing at ADI as well too. So really good stuff. These are what we consider our best practices and things that ADI is doing with their current implementation. So when you're looking at a tool to be able to do this, I'm going to recommend the PMG tool, but obviously when you're doing your analysis of it, you're going to want something that's simple and flexible, something that's easy to set up and easy to maintain. Services are constantly being improved, right? It's continual business process improvement. And so you want something that's going to be easy to change, and by having things that are easy to configure with minimal coding, that's going to be possible. You're going to be able to leverage what systems you currently have in place or replace them if you need to. If you're using one ITSM tool and decide to go with another, your service doesn't necessarily need to change. You can just remove that ITSM tool and bring in another service management tool. All available within the catalog, easy to handle and easy to manage. Automation is a must. At the end of the day, if you're just giving someone static services or just tasks that are going to people to do work, it's not going to get adopted by the company. You want it to be automated. ADI gave some great examples of things that were taking several weeks and requiring, when ordering laptops, it was taking several weeks for these things to get completed. It was requiring multiple calls to help desks. And now with what they have implemented now, it's just taking a matter of minutes to hours to get these services completed. So really interesting stuff. What we hope our clients are able to do with the tool, ADI is doing it. It's a really interesting story that they're sharing, and we're glad you guys were able to tell it today. We do have a few minutes left. Doug and Dwayne, if you guys are available, I'd like to pitch some questions that we've got that have come in through the webinar. Would you guys be available to take a few of those?
Sure, Nick.
All right, so I'm going to go with the first one. And all right, what do you think were the critical success factors in getting the catalog in place?
I'll take that one. This is Dwayne. I think key was our CIO was the champion for this. He saw the vision. It was his vision. He drove that, helped get the organizational alignment for that. I think that was so key. And for us, that we chose the principle that this was all about the employee with everything we did. Some people use the service catalog concept for internal-facing services, which isn't wrong. It's a great thing to do to automate, but for us, it was all about the employee, and we kept that focus. We kept it on the mass market, so we weren't looking to put something up there for 20 people, because, as I said earlier, part of the success of the catalog is you got to be able to find it. So even if it's easy to execute, you got to be able to find it. And if you had 1,000 services up there, and perhaps it became more difficult to find a service, then once again, it's not great for the employee. So we were selective with that. I think those are major factors. I don't know if you'd want to add anything in, Doug.
You can capture it, Dwayne.
All right, great. Thank you for that answer. We'll go to the next question. What are the key skills and knowledge the service program manager needs to be successful?
Should I take that? Doug, I mentioned before, detail-oriented, for sure, process-oriented. More than anything, to challenge the processes in place, and don't just take a status quo, move the existing, maybe manual processes, and just automate them. Many times there's room for improvement, and they should be changed. From a technology standpoint, certainly familiarity with web development and SQL, maybe that's more on the resource side. I think you asked about program management. But it's really not a huge technical role. It's more driving people in the right manner, managing projects, and continuing to ask the right questions.
Great. Okay, got another one for you. What do you use for an incident management ticketing system? So what ITSM tool are you using, or which ones are you using?
Incident management we use in the Numara footprints.
So just Numara, any others?
No, we
follow up your question, because you did mention that.
Yeah, we were on a initially, and what we tested in the POC environment was a remedy shop, and we had other initiatives to move off of remedy, not related to the PMG initiative. So we've been on Numara roughly just over a year now, and PMG followed right behind that.
Okay. Another question. how did you get other departments, such as HR, to buy into the service catalog?
We really haven't at this point. Just informed them about the catalog. They're looking in the future for how they can make it easier for employees beyond our core ESS, MSS. They have a lot of other processes that, once again, they're not highly visible and as easy to execute. So we expect to go out next year and further educate, engage them on how the catalog can help them.
All righty. How long did the initial implementation take?
In totality, it was about 6 months, and we would have done it in 2 to 3 months, but we kind of stopped and took a step back. Initially, we were going after a U.S., United States only based deployment, and then we got a lot of feedback of don't trickle this out like we may have done in the past of start in the U.S. and move to Europe and eventually Asia. That really, to be successful, that we should do worldwide day one. So that obviously took more time. In the end, it was nearly 6 months, but it was time well spent to make it available to all employees, literally at the same time.
Much bigger impact.
Okay, great. Got some more questions rolling in. They just keep coming in. So let's go with the next one, which is, did you spend any time training the employees on how to use the catalog when you rolled it out, or did you just have people go to the site and then request their services?
No, we marketed the catalog, but we felt that the catalog needed to be intuitive for people to use, which is the majority of feedback we get is that the catalog is very easy to use. That's really a principle that we have for any employee-facing application here.
All righty. How many people do you have managing the catalog full time?
There's 2 full-time analog resources on this. Myself as the program manager, and I have a full-time person who does the support, and I'll call it development. It's really configuration.
Mm-hmm.
And we also use a couple weeks of time from PMG resources to supplement our staff, both for knowledge and for some extra hands.
Okay, great. Next question is for the hosting of the environment, choosing to do on-site rather than, or on-premise rather than going to the cloud. What helped drive that decision?
It was all about the integrations. As we dug a little bit deeper into what it would mean to integrate, for instance, Active Directory or SAP, what that would mean from an external environment and how much we wanted to expose from a security perspective. It became clear very quickly that we wanted to manage it internally and keep it within our environments. We have done other cloud-based solutions with mixed results, and I would say in general that is our approach, is to start internal. We always look at the cloud as an option, but more times than not, we're still deploying on-premise solutions.
Right, exactly. It really, a lot of times it comes dependent to what other applications you're integrating with and what the limitations are of, if they're on the cloud, how much you can integrate with them, what they're going to have available through their APIs. Here's a really good one. I'm very interested to hear the answer to this. So how much work was required outside of PMG to implement your automation, such as scripting, PowerShells, SQL, things like that? I'm hoping very little to none, but I would love to hear the honest answer.
I think it comes back to challenging those processes. Certainly there was work done, probably mostly on the SCCM side was where a lot of the scripting was done. We happen to have an internal resource that, he loves the stuff. You throw a challenge at him, and he just wants to provide that and a lot more. So I can't speak to exactly how much work. It's probably in the weeks, certainly not not months, but we asked for some fairly sophisticated queries from him, and no challenges in delivering them. PowerShell, you mentioned, we don't have a lot of expertise internally, so we have struggled a bit with that. But the catalog can do a lot, but when you start relying on external environments, and this is something we've been challenged with, you're always going to depend on for the automation piece, how much that environment can do and how much expertise we have in-house.
Sure. Okay. One question now goes back to the implementation team. You spoke about the service owners, and you really harped on the importance that they had with examining the existing processes and helping document what the services will look like. How did you start engaging those service owners? How did you find those service owners and then get them involved in your project?
Some of it was tribal knowledge, but we looked at the high volume service requests and who kind of owned the processes internally, made a determination whether they were the right folks to own those processes in the new environment, and if so, kind of indoctrinate them to this new process of adding services to the catalog, and really review the commitment that we were asking of them in order to have their services listed. And of course, having the CIO's hammer didn't hurt as well to help drive home the message.
I think we just add one other thing that we looked at too, and continue to look at, is the Pareto of IT service desk tickets. Where are they coming from, and what we can do to hit the big bars. In addition to what Doug said.
Right, exactly. So you have the top-down direction from your leadership that's kind of giving the message of what needs to be done. So that's getting the service owners involved, and then you're backing it up with what you're providing once the services are created to help selling them internally as well. Good answers and great questions. I think we'll bring it to an end there. There's a couple little questions still out there that we'll get back to individually. I think they're a little more focused on some PMG software type things, and I'll follow up those individually with an email response. But I really want to thank you guys, Dwayne and Doug. Did a great job. Really enjoyed hearing your story and taking the time to answer your questions. And also thank you to everybody who joined this webinar today. Once again, if you have any questions or need to follow up about PMG, my email address, mclowski@pmg.net. You can feel free to visit our website. You'll also be getting a recorded version of this webinar, and it'll also be posted to our website. So thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.